The Torch 3 Project Gemini 2017 by Archie Roberts. A photo of the group that went to the UK for Project Gemini is displayed. My approach to 2017 Project Gemini was that I was just going to soak it all up and enjoy myself and the unique experience. On arrival, the pilot told us that it was a beautiful day in London with the ground temperature being 9 degrees Celsius. Oh dear! I was pleasantly surprised that when we left the terminal building that it was somewhat warmer, and indeed the whole week was like being at home in South Africa with temperatures ranging from 24 to 29 degrees Celsius. We met with Colin in the receiving hall and the jokes just started flying. We had to wait for the American people, so whilst we were waiting, we had a cup of Costa's finest coffee. I then needed the loo and I went into the disabled toilet. I looked for the flusher everywhere and eventually found a button that I pressed. What happened then was that the lady started banging on the door, so I opened it and she rushed in. Apparently, I set off a panic alarm. Thankfully, she did show me where the button to flush was and I was relieved. Once the American contingent arrived, we set off on the hour-and-a-half drive to Brighton. We arrived at Port Hall, unpacked and got ready for the rest of the day. We had a wonderful lunch of roast beef and Yorkshire pudding. Chris then orientated me to the route to get from Port Hall to the Brighton facility on the way to supper. At the Brighton Centre pub, I was introduced to War Blind UK, and we had pizza to go with that. I think the toilets were out to get me because, as you know, drinking beer brings on a huge need, and once again I set off the blasted panic alarm in the toilet. On Monday, we had the usual English fry up for breakfast at the Brighton Centre. All the war vets met in the lounge and we all shared who we are, where we come from, what unit we were in and how we became blind. Having got that little bit of formality out of the way, we were introduced to the representatives from Revision Military who sponsored Project Gemini in 2017. The company produces protective eyewear and other items for military application. After meeting the representatives from Revision Military, we were all taken on a tour of the Brighton facility. My recollections from this tour were that in the next annex they have a heated pool and a wonderful gym. Apparently, when people are training for events such as marathons, the personal trainers at the facility assist the individuals in the preparation for the event. There is a section where people learn daily living activities, and I remember from my own rehabilitation days that Optima College also had a daily living learning area. I was really intrigued to find that you can get a microwave these days that talks to you. In another area, there is a craft center, and in a craft center, one of the people was learning leather work whilst others were making seagulls for the Chelsea flower show. We then went to the information technology section where they train people on Supernova, a program called Guide, and how to use Synaptics with touch screen phones. I really don't think Supernova will work for me, and quite frankly, even though I have a new touchscreen phone, I will only change to using a touchscreen phone full-time when my current phone goes to heaven. From the reception area, you can go up on the lift or walk up to the first floor where the canteen and pub are situated. In addition, one can go out to the garden area from the pub, and this I found to be a very peaceful place to escape to. The second and third floors of the facility are used for those war-blind persons who require a frail care facility. The fourth floor is used as a medical floor. The top floor is used for training, and this is where we had lunch, and I got to sit next to a real live Royal Marine who now works for Revision Military. After lunch, Colin arranged that I get a new cane from the Rovies because my one must still be in one of the rural areas I work in. I was also taught how to set the watch that Colin gave me last year by the Rovi, and for that I'm very thankful. Whilst I was getting my new cane, everyone else was being briefed in the sports hall on how to play goalball. When I arrived back, Gareth gave me his knee and elbow pads as well as his goggles. The goggles ensure that nobody can see on a goalball field. At first, they taught us how to dive to prevent the ball going past you into the net. My first attempt at stopping the ball ended up with me being told that there is a reason for wearing a box to protect my privates. I thus eagerly put my box on and tried as far as was possible to stop talking like a girl. My next attempt on stopping the ball ended up with me diving over the ball, and there was sniggers all around. Nobody told me that if I wanted to, I could just catch the ball without diving around like a lunatic. I was on the red team, and needless to say, we won, but this had very little to do with me being a member of the red team. After goalball, we walked down to the Brighton Pier to play 10-pin bowling. I won't go into this too much, but just to say that George's bowling background stood him in good stead, whereas Colin's retort to me is instructive as to my prowess in the sport. Archie, when that thing comes back down to earth, it will have snow on it. After 10-pin bowling, we returned to something I'm more comfortable doing. That being eating. We went to a restaurant where you first pile your plate with things like salad and the like. Then people walk around with these huge hunks of cooked dead animals, ask you what piece you want, and then put your chosen piece on your plate. These guys just kept on coming and coming until we called a halt to their procession. On Tuesday, we went to a company that trains both military and commercial pilots. They teach using simulators, and believe me, the experience is just like being on an aircraft. We went through various weather conditions during our time on the simulator, and now I know what causes some of the sounds you hear when you are flying on an aircraft. I must mention, though, that Gareth crashed the helicopter simulator. On Wednesday, we all got up early to go to the American ambassador's residence in London. The reason for the visit was to hand over a plaque commemorating the centenary of America's entrance into the First World War. With the post duties complete for the day, we travelled to the Victory Services Club for a seminar. The speakers were as follows: Surgeon General of the British Defence Medical Services, Vice Admiral Alistair Walker, Dr. Renata Gomes, Head of Research and Innovation at Blind Veterans UK, Major Dr. Thomas Zampiri, PhD, Blind Veterans Association, Major General Nick Kaplan, CB, Chief Executive, Blind Veterans UK, Dr. Heisi Basiler, PhD, Principal Investigator and Lecturer in Imaging Sciences, Center for Neurosciences, the University of York. Colonel Dr. Glenn Cockerham, MD, Chief of Department's Veterans Affairs Ophthalmology Services. Lieutenant Colonel Dr. Kimberly Cockerham, Adjunct Associate Clinical Professor, Stanford University, Department of Ophthalmology, Oculofacial Plastics, Orbit and Neuro-Ophthalmology, and Colonel Dr. Robert A. Mazzoli, MD, FACS, Director of Education. Topics covered included research into macular degeneration, experimental darkies, traumatic brain injury, and the challenges around policy and monitoring and evaluation. After the seminar, there was a reception and photos with a model called Caprice, and subsequently we once again were treated to an amazing dinner of roast beef at Yorkshire pudding. On Thursday we slept in, but then travelled to visit the brewery. We were taken on a tour of the brewery, and the owner explained how unpasteurized beer is made. After this, we were given a taste of the beers produced at the brewery, and suffice to say, Castle Lager, in terms of my taste buds, beats these beers hands down. In the evening, we were taken to the dog races in Brighton. Our table all won something. However, gambling on dogs was to me not the most intelligent way to spend one's money. Quite frankly, it's a mug's game. On Friday, we traveled to a place to play bubble football, throw axes and ride in go-karts. The bubbles were great fun and we ended up not playing football but just bashing into each other. I decided that just diving and rolling around was better fun than being bashed around by Russell, who is 6'7" and built like a barn door. Gareth probably doesn't know this, but the guys really appreciated the fact that even though he was the St. Dunstan CEO, he got down and dirty with the rest of us. To my astonishment, I realized during this event that I am actually claustrophobic and I had things put over my head. We then moved on to axe throwing and it took me 15 goes to actually hit the target. I think I'll keep my day job. After the axe throwing, we had pizza for lunch and subsequently was shown a video of the safety issues to comply with when driving the go-karts. We then suited up for the drive and once again I found that I really felt sick putting on the helmet. George on the other hand had a whale of a time and Charlie told me that when he had finished his turn he had a grin as big as Texas on his face. In the evening he had a barbecue followed by the presentation of coins and plagues. Each of us war-blinded veterans were given honorary war-blind UK certificates. On Saturday we travelled to a pub near Devil's Dyke and had lunch. After this I went to the Brighton Pier and bought loads of Brighton rock for the family. In the evening everyone was very subdued and the guys were saying that they were all thinking of going back home and taking up the drudgery of life again, and that is why they were all subdued. On Sunday, we just waited around until after lunch when we left for the airport. At the airport, George, Gareth and I spent some pounds on presents for our loved ones. All three of us then climbed on a golf cart and went to board the plane.